Ladies and gentlemen, in the stillness of creation, when the stars were flung into the heavens and the earth took its form by the breath of God, he did not stop with the mountains or the oceans or the galaxies, but bent low to breathe into man, something no other created being possessed, purpose. Destiny calling, a dream not made of human ambition, but of divine design planted not in the mind, but deep within the soil of the heart, where eternity whispers and the Spirit of God still hovers, waiting to awaken that dream with fire, with vision, with holy urgency that no voice of doubt can extinguish. 2, before you spoke your first word, before your fingers ever reached for the light, before your name was known to the world, the Creator had already written your name into a dream so sacred, so personal, so powerful that all of heaven leans forward waiting to see it bloom. Because this dream is not just a goal or a plan or a personal ambition, it is a seed of heaven's own heartbeat entrusted to you like a sacred trust, like a divine scroll rolled into the core of your being, waiting for your yes, waiting for your faith, waiting for your obedience. 3, the world will try to bury it with fear, with shame, with logic, with labels, with deadlines, with the weight of not being enough or being too much or being too late. But the dream of God is not bound by the timelines of men or the voices of critics or the opinions of family or the pain of your past. Because what God plants, he protects. What he calls forth, he empowers. And what he ordains, no devil in hell can uproot. And when you begin to believe that the very breath in your lungs is evidence that your dream still lives, that your purpose still burns, then you will rise, not because of your strength, but because of his. 4, you may have walked through seasons where the dream seemed silent, where your prayers echoed back like empty wind, where your efforts produced no fruit, where every closed door felt like judgment, but child of destiny. Delay is not denial, and silence is not absence, and emptiness is not failure. It is the soil of trust, the place where faith is forged, where motives are purified, where ego dies and God becomes enough. And when he becomes enough, he gives you more than you ever asked for because he trusts you to carry not just the dream, but the weight of its fulfillment with humility and grace. And 5, God does not plant dreams to tease you or to frustrate you or to mock your limitations. He plants them because he sees beyond what you can see. He knows the strength you've forgotten, the endurance you don't know you have, the courage waiting to be uncovered in your weakest hour. And so he waits, not because he is punishing you, but because he is preparing you. Because the dream must grow in you before it can grow through you. And if he gave it too soon, it would crush you. But when the time is right, when the heavens align and the waiting is refined and the fire has burned away the fear, then he moves and nothing can. 6, there will be voices, always voices, telling you that it's foolish, that you should be realistic, that you missed your chance, that you don't have the education or the background or the personality or the money or the favor. But don't you know that God specializes in calling the unqualified? In raising the overlooked and anointing the shepherd boy when the world chose the warrior, and birthing kings in stables and turning fishermen into apostles, in choosing the broken so that no man can boast. Because when the dream comes to life, it won't be your name that gets glory. It will be his. 7, you don't need the applause. You don't need the spotlight. You don't need a platform or a perfect plan, because when God plants a dream, he becomes your platform. He becomes your provision. He becomes your defender, your counselor, your promoter, your sustainer. And if you dare to trust him, if you dare to believe that you were born for more than survival or repetition or mere comfort, then he will take your yes and stretch it across eternity like a banner of testimony, that when others see you walk in your calling, they will say, surely the Lord. There is a war for your dream, a battle not of flesh and blood, but of identity, of purpose, of spiritual alignment, because the enemy doesn't fear your talent or your connections. He fears your surrender. He fears your surrender. He fears your prayer life and your fasting and your worship when everything falls apart and you praise anyway. And when you walk through the fire and don't quit, when you walk through the valley and don't turn back, when you carry your cross and still speak love, that's when you become dangerous. That's when the dream takes root so deep that not even death can destroy. 9, and maybe you failed, maybe you've fallen, maybe you've wasted years chasing shadows and building your own towers of Babel, and now you think it's too late. But let me tell you, God restores, God redeems, God resurrects, and the dream you thought was dead is still breathing, still waiting. Still burning, because he who began a good work in you has not walked away. He has not changed his mind. He has not revoked your calling. And the very fact that you still long for it, still ache for it, still dream it in the quiet, is proof that it lives. So rise, child of destiny, rise not with arrogance, but with anointing. Rise not with pride, but with purpose. Rise not to impress, but to impact. And let the dream that God planted in your heart awaken every morning with your breath. Let it be watered with tears, strengthened with prayer. Surrounded by truth and surrendered daily at the feet of the one who gave it. And though the journey will test you, though the fire will refine you, though the world may not understand you, remember this: what God plants, he brings to harvest. One, faith is the fuel, because it is not sight that moves the mountain, not logic that parts the sea, not strategy that brings walls crashing down, but faith, raw, trembling mustard seed, world-defying, heaven-trusting faith that looks at the impossible and still says yes, that hears the voice of God in the storm and keeps walking, that sees no evidence but believes anyway, that runs on empty and still pours out, that gets knocked down but rises again with fire in its eyes and conviction in its bones. Because faith is not a feeling, it is a force. Two, faith is the fuel because the dream is too big for natural strength, too weighty for mere talent, too sacred for human confidence. And when the road gets long, when the nights are silent, when the prayers feel unanswered and the results look barren, it is faith that keeps the fire alive. It is faith that says he is still good. It is faith that walks forward with blistered feet and weary hands, because it knows the one who promised is faithful. And even when everything else shakes, faith grabs hold of the unshakable. Three, faith is the fuel because God does not respond to perfection or eloquence or popularity. He responds to belief, a trust that is rooted not in what we see, but in who he is. And though the winds howl and the earth quakes and the voices rise against you, if you have faith, not much. Just enough, then the dream will keep burning, the vision will keep stretching, and you will find yourself walking on water with trembling legs and wild wonder. Not because you are fearless, but because faith carried you where flesh could never go. Faith is the fuel because it moves the heart of God. Because when a soul dares to believe against all odds, dares to lift its eyes when everything around screams to give up, to keep building the ark when there is no rain, dares to raise the staff when the sea has no path, dares to speak life when death seems louder, then heaven moves, angels stand at attention, chains break in silence, and the impossible begins to bend its knee, not to the strength of man, but to the authority of God. 5, faith is the fuel because you will face moments where no one claps, no one understands, no one stays, no one believes in what you see in your spirit. And if your dream is only driven by applause, you will quit. But if it is driven by faith, deep, personal, unshakable faith, then your roots will go down while the surface stays barren, and you will keep digging, keep trusting, keep planting even when there's no rain, because you know the harvest is coming not by sight, but by promise. 6, faith is the fuel because the fire gets dim and the passion grows tired and the vision gets blurred, but faith does not rely on emotion. It doesn't need a perfect plan or clear answers. Faith is the voice inside that says, I still believe. When your hands are empty, when your heart is broken, when your strength is gone, because faith draws from a well deeper than flesh, deeper than intellect, deeper than what the world calls common sense. And that well never runs dry when your source is divine. 7, faith is the fuel because it unlocks heaven's resources. It opens the gates of provision, of favor, of strategy you didn't earn, of doors you couldn't open. And when the world says you need to have it all figured out, faith says, I walk with the one who already does. And so you move with confidence, not because you have control, but because you're surrendered to the one who does. And in that surrender, you receive strength, guidance, peace, and miracles that no one can explain. 8, faith is the fuel because the enemy knows he cannot steal your calling, so he will try to steal your belief in it. He will attack your confidence, your trust, your expectation. And if he can get you to stop believing, he doesn't need to touch the dream, because a dream without faith is a body without breath. But when you guard your faith, when you water it with the word, when you protect it in prayer, when you anchor it in worship, the fire stays lit and the dream becomes unstoppable. 9, faith is the fuel because even Jesus in his hometown could not do many miracles. Not because he lacked power, but because they lacked faith. And if faith limited miracles, then faith still unlocks them now. And what you think is waiting on God is often God waiting on you. Waiting for you to stop looking at the wind, start speaking to it. Waiting for you to stop waiting for signs and start standing on his word. Waiting for you to move so he can multiply. Waiting for you to stretch so he can pour. Then faith is the fuel because you were never meant to coast, never meant to walk by comfort, never meant to settle for what you can do in your own strength, but to live a life where the only explanation is in. How people see your life and say, only go. Where your story becomes a beacon for others to believe again, and your dream becomes not just a destination, but a declaration that with faith with God, all things are still possible, and the fire that burns within you is not just passion, it is power from above one. The world may mock, may laugh, may raise its eyebrows and whisper behind your back, may roll its eyes at your faith, at your fire, at your refusal to bow to the norms and patterns and comforts that keep men average. But you must understand that the world mocks what it cannot measure. It mocks what threatens its systems. It mocks what doesn't beg for its approval. And while their laughter may echo loud in the halls of man's opinion, there is another voice louder still, a voice that thunders over you saying, "This is my beloved in whom I am well pleased." 2, you may walk through rooms where your dream is dismissed, your passion is misunderstood, your conviction is labeled foolish, and your vision is ridiculed. But just because they don't say it doesn't mean it isn't real. And just because they mock it doesn't mean it's not ordained. Because while man sees the outer shell, heaven sees the fire burning within. And if God gave it, God will defend it. And when you walk into hostile rooms, you do not walk in alone. Heaven walks in with you. They may call you delusional, dramatic, too spiritual, too intense, too ambitious. They may question your sanity and mock your motives, but let them mock, because they mocked Noah until the rain came. They mocked David until Goliath fell. They mocked Joseph until Pharaoh called him up. They mocked Jesus until the stone rolled away. And if you are facing mockery, you are in good company, because mockery is often the enemy's last defense before manifestation. Oh, let them talk. Let them question, let them stare, because when the calling is real, when the oil is authentic, when the word is alive in your spirit, you no longer need the applause of man to keep moving, because the approval of heaven thunders louder than every critic, and the witness of the Spirit burns deeper than every insult. And while they scoff and scroll and speculate, the Father is working behind the curtain, moving mountains, arranging favor, preparing the moment where your obedience will silence their mockery. 5, you don't need to defend yourself. You don't need to argue back. You don't need to fit in or water down or explain away the fire in your belly. Because heaven's assignment does not require man's permission. And when you were anointed, it wasn't in the crowd, it was in the secret. And when God called you, he didn't consult their opinions. So why would their mockery matter now? Why would the same mouths that did not make you have the power to break you? 6, and yes, their words may sting, their silence may hurt, their rejection may feel like betrayal. But what they don't know is that your identity was never rooted in their acceptance. Your value was never wrapped up in their support, and your dream does not rise and fall in their applause. Because when heaven stands behind you, you walk differently, you pray differently, you speak differently, because you know the throne of God backs your every step. There is something terrifying to the world about someone who is no longer controlled by its praise or paralyzed by its mockery. Because when you're dead to self and alive to Christ, the enemy loses his grip and the culture loses its control. And you become a vessel set apart and moved, unfazed by ridicule, because your ears are tuned not to the volume of the crowd, but to the whisper of God in the secret place saying, "Keep going, I'm with you." 8. And when the time comes, when the fruit appears, when the door opens, when the dream stands fully alive and visible and undeniable, the same ones who mocked may marvel, may wonder, may even repent. But even if they don't, it will not matter, because the victory was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving him faithful. And when heaven stands behind you, your reward is not just the fulfillment, but the fellowship, not just the crown, but the cross you carried with him all the way there. 9. So lift your head, not in pride, but in confidence, not because they doubted, but because he didn't, not because they mocked you, and that mark cannot be erased by their laughter, cannot be canceled by their sarcasm, cannot be undone by their gossip, because what heaven seals, man cannot touch, and what God starts, he finishes, and the one who began the work in you will complete it, whether they clap or not. So walk forward, not because it's easy, not because you are fearless, but because the host of heaven is behind you, angels assigned to you, power resting upon you, purpose burning within you, and even if the whole world laughs, even if they call you crazy, even if they leave you alone. Remember this, you are never alone, because heaven stands behind you, before you, around you, within you. That is 1. You are not alone, not in the midnight hour when tears soak the pillow and sleep won't come, not in the long hallway between what was and what's to come, not in the crowd that doesn't see you or the silence that tries to convince you that you've been forgotten, not in the battle that rages inside your mind when fear screams louder than faith. Because before you ever cried up, before you ever broke down, before you ever lost your strength, you are not alone in your calling, even when the road feels lonely, when the burden to obey makes you misunderstood, when obedience isolates you and the crowd no longer claps, because obedience was never about popularity. It was about intimacy with the one who called you. And he walks every mile with you, speaks to you when others grow silent, sustains you when others withdraw, and celebrates your secret faithfulness in ways the world will never see. You are not alone when you fall, when you stumble, when you don't get it right, because his presence is not reserved for your mountaintops. It is committed to your valleys. And when you are flat on your face, he does not walk past you in disappointment. He kneels beside you with obedience opens doors, because it is the kingdom, the language of trust, the evidence that faith is not just something we feel, but something we live. And when you obey in private, when you do what he told you when no one else sees, he begins to align divine opportunities, divine favor, divine connections, divine release that you could never have orchestrated with 10,000 emails or 20 years of networking, because God will not let faithful obedience go unrewarded. 4. Obedience opens doors because it breaks the cycle of delay, because many are stuck not from lack of calling, but from lack of following, from delayed yeses and partial steps and selective submission. For when the heart is fully surrendered, fully aligned, fully yielded, things begin to... Because obedience tears down walls built by disobedience in the moment you do what he told you. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it costs you something, you will feel the atmosphere begin to shift. Obedience opens doors because the blessing is not just in hearing the promise, but in walking toward it even when there is no visible path. Because Abraham didn't receive the fullness of the promise when he heard God, he received it when he obeyed God, when he left what was familiar. He raised the knife when he trusted even when it made no sense, and that obedience made room for the miraculous provision of heaven to break into earth. 6, obedience opens doors because every yes to God is a no to fear, a no to control, a no to comfort zones that keep you small. And with each obedient step, you are not just moving forward. You are being shaped, being refined, being positioned for what eyes have not seen and ears have not heard. Because God uses obedience to mold character, and he uses character to unlock destiny. Obedience opens doors because when God sees someone he can trust with the small things, he entrusts them with more, because promotion doesn't come from striving or shouting or selling. It comes from heaven, and heaven watches how you respond when it's not glamorous, when it's hard. No one else claps when it costs you time and pride and courage and comfort in those moments of unseen obedience. Heaven writes your name on doors you haven't even dreamed of yet. 8, obedience opens doors because of the sound of alignment, and alignment is the sound heaven honors. And when your life comes into rhythm with his will, the supernatural becomes natural. Peace floods the storm, provision meets the step, miracles meet the movement, and things begin to fall into place, not because you forced it, but because you followed him. And there is no striving in obedience, only surrender. Obedience opens doors because delayed obedience is still disobedience, and partial obedience is still rebellion. God is not looking for selective loyalty. He is looking for the one who will say yes, even when it hurts. Yes, even when it's lonely. Yes, even when it looks like a step back. Because every obedient sacrifice is a seed in the ground, and the harvest it brings will be pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Obedience opens doors because Jesus himself walked in perfect obedience, and every door that opened, the blind seeing, the lame walking, the grave breaking open, was not just because he was divine, but because he was obedient even unto death. And now when we obey, we walk in that same power, that same authority, that same rhythm of heaven on earth. And when we say yes, all of heaven moves with us. All of heaven backs us, and every door God intended to open swings wide. 1, dreams take sacrifice because anything heaven breathed will cost you something earthbound. And while the world preaches comfort, convenience, and quick success, that's the kingdom calls you deeper, calls you to uncomfort. And the applause of man for the approval of God, because real dreams The kind that shift atmospheres and break chains are not microwaved into existence. They are forged in the fire of surrender. 2, dreams take sacrifice because the calling will ask for your time, your tears, your trust, and often your silence when you want to explain yourself, your stillness when you want to fight back, your focus when distractions scream louder than... Because to carry what God has placed in your spirit means you must let go of what others think, what your flesh wants, and what the enemy offers as a counterfeit. 3, dreams take sacrifice because vision is heavy, and carrying something from heaven while walking through earth means your hands must be empty of idols, empty of ego, empty of backup plans and exit routes. Because you cannot hold the dream and hold on to your excuses at the same time. The higher you go, the more weightless your pride must become, for only humility can survive the altitude of divine purpose. Dreams take sacrifice because you will walk alone before you walk celebrated. You will pray unseen before you lead known. You will be questioned, doubted, misunderstood, even by those closest to you, and it will break your heart. But the breaking is part of the making. Because the vessel God uses must first be crushed, emptied, and remade so that what flows from it is not ambition or talent, but pure. 5, dreams take sacrifice because it is not just about reaching the platform, but becoming the kind of person who can steward it without destroying others or yourself, and God in his mercy will withhold stages until your soul is ready, until your heart is whole, until the secret places of your life match the public prayers you pray. Because the dream fulfilled before the character form can become a curse, not a crown. 6, dreams take sacrifice because every yes to God is a no to something else, no to comfort, no to settling, no to fitting in, no to distractions that feel good but lead nowhere. And sometimes the sacrifice isn't what you give up, but what you stay faithful to day after day when no one sees. No one claps, and still you show up, still you give, still you believe. Dreams take sacrifice because the enemy will always attack what threatens him. And if your dream carries kingdom weight, it will draw fire from hell, it will stir warfare, it will cost you sleep, relationships, ease, and at times your own understanding. But the pain is not proof that you missed it. The pain is proof that you are carrying something real. 8, dreams take sacrifice does not erase the process, and between the seed and the harvest is the burial, the watering, the waiting, the pruning, and you cannot rush what God is growing, but you can ruin it if you refuse to surrender. So the question is never how big is your dream, but how deep is your sacrifice. 9, dreams take sacrifice because we follow a Savior whose own dream to redeem, to restore, to reconcile cost him everything. And if the cross was his path to fulfillment, then why would we expect crowns without cost, resurrection without crucifixion, glory without the grave? And if we want to walk in his power, we must also walk in his surrender. Dreams take sacrifice because the dream is not just about you, it's about generations you may never see, battles you will win for others, freedom you will birth through obedience. And if you are willing to sacrifice what is temporary, God will trust you with what is eternal. What you give up in comfort, he will return in legacy and impact and joy unspeakable and full of glory, because no dream from God comes without a price, and no price given in faith goes unrewarded. Delay is not denial, because God is never late, never absent, never unaware of the ache inside your waiting. And though your prayers may feel like they're hanging unanswered in the silence, heaven has already begun the movement behind the scenes, orchestrating what you cannot see, aligning what you could never force, preparing a miracle so precise and personal that when it comes, you will understand why it had to take. 2, delay is not denial, because every moment of waiting is not wasted. It is working, it is shaping, it is stretching your faith beyond what comfort ever could, is removing the need to control, to rush, to settle for less. Because God is not only preparing the blessing for you, he is preparing you for the blessing, and he loves you too much to give you something too early that your character is not yet ready to carry. 3, delay is not denial, because the promise still stands even when the evidence disappears, and just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't, because we walk by faith and not by sight, by truth and not by timelines, and sometimes the longer the delay, the deeper the roots, the stronger the foundation, the greater the glory when the breakthrough finally bursts through. 4, delay is not denial, because the delay is a teacher, and in it you learn to worship without the answer, to trust when the path is dark, to praise even when your hands are empty, and those are the moments that build unshakable trust, because when God becomes your portion in the delay, will be your anchor when the dream comes. 5, delay is not denial, because Joseph still made it to the palace. David still sat on the throne. Sarah still laughed with Isaac in her arms, and Jesus still rose on the third day. And if their delay did not cancel their destiny, then neither will yours, because what God starts, he finishes. What he promised, he performs, not on your clock, but in his appointed time. 6, delay is not denial, because sometimes God delays, not because you're behind, but because he's ahead, clearing the path, removing traps, preparing hearts, softening terrain, setting up divine appointments that only make sense when you arrive right on time, not early in anxiety, or late in anxiety, or late in regret, but in the exact moment when heaven's yes meets your ready. 7, delay is not denial, because your faith is being refined like gold in the fire. And faith that has never been tested cannot be trusted, so he allows the waiting to burn away, impatience, insecurity, and every false source of hope until all that remains is raw, real dependence on him. And it's in that place that you are strongest, not when the dream is delivered, but when your heart has learned to rest in the giver. 8, delay is not denial, because closed doors now are not rejections, but redirections. And if God has to block what's good to make way for what's best, he will, even if it breaks your heart. Because he sees what you can't and knows what you don't. And sometimes the greatest mercy is the prayer he didn't answer the way you expected, but the way he intended. 9, delay is not denial, because the enemy wants you to confuse God's silence with absence, his timing with apathy. But even when you don't feel him, he is there. Even when the heavens seem quiet, the word still stands. And if all you have left is the whisper of a promise, then hold it like a sword. Because the battle isn't over just because it's slow. 10, delay is not denial, because one day when the door opens, when the healing comes, when the prayer is answered, when the vision manifests, you'll realize that it didn't happen a moment too soon or a moment too late, but exactly when it was meant to. And your tears will turn to testimony. Your waiting will birth wisdom, and you'll look back not in bitterness, but in wonder, saying, oh, now I see why it had to happen this way. 1, storms will come not because you did something wrong, but because you're alive, because you're anointed, because you carry a purpose the enemy fears and a promise that's worth the fight. And the winds don't blow against empty ships, but against those carrying treasure. So when the clouds gather and the rain starts falling and the sky turns black, don't panic, don't retreat, don't question your worth, because even Jesus himself stood in storms and slept through them too. 2, storms will come to shake what's unstable, to test what's been built on sand and reveal what's been planted on the rock. And though the storm may rattle your plans, it cannot rewrite your calling. And though it may mess with your comfort, it cannot steal your identity. Because you are not held together by calm weather, but by a faithful God who commands the sea with a word. 3, storms will come when you least expect them, in the middle of progress, right after the breakthrough, in seasons of peace and moments of joy, but they do not surprise God. And he does not step back when the skies grow dark. He steps closer, speaks louder, moves deeper, and reminds you that he is not just the God of the harvest, but the God of the hurricane. The soar. Storms will come to reveal what you really believe, because it's easy to shout faith when the sun is shining, but it's in the thunder where your trust is tested, in the lightning where your worship gets real, in the waves where your theology turns into experience. And suddenly the verse you memorize becomes the anchor you cling to with both hands when everything else slips away. 5, storms will come to prune what doesn't belong, to separate the voices that cheer from the ones that stay, to clarify your vision, to clear out distractions, to strip away the applause that distracted you from the whisper. And in the middle of them, you'll find a stillness that only the storm can birth, a peace that passes understanding, because it was formed in chaos. 6, storms will come not to destroy you, but to develop you, to stretch your capacity, to deepen your roots, to force you to depend on grace instead of gifting, on the Spirit instead of strategy. And every gust of wind that tries to knock you down is actually pushing you deeper into the arms of the one who doesn't stop loving you, just because the storm makes it hard to feel him. 7, storms will come and people will leave, comfort will leave, predictability will leave, but God will never leave. And when the boat is filling with water and the horizon disappears, his presence remains unshaken, his promise remains unchanged, his goodness remains unquestionable. Then he is not pacing the shores, he is right there in the middle of it with you. 8, storms will come and the enemy will lie. I'll say you're forgotten, we'll say you're forsaken. We'll say the storm is proof that you missed it, but the devil is a liar and the storm is not a sentence. It's a setup, not an ending, but a beginning. But a beginning sent it to stop you, then God will use it to strengthen you, to reroute you, to launch you. 9, storms will come and sometimes God will calm them. Sometimes he will calm you. Sometimes he will speak of peace, be still, and sometimes he will say, well, walk through it, and the miracle won't be the storm stopping, but the fact that you didn't drown, didn't give up, didn't walk away, walk away. And when the clouds clear, you'll realize that your worship got louder, your courage got stronger, your testimony got deeper, and your God never left. 10. Storms will come, but they will also go, because storms don't last forever, but the faith they build does, the clarity they bring does. The intimacy with God they awaken does, and when the next one comes, and it will, you'll stand taller, praise louder, believe faster, and smile through the rain. Not because the storm doesn't shake you, but because now you know the one who holds you cannot be moved. 1, speak life over your vision, because what you declare shapes what you build, and silence is not always humility. Sometimes it's surrender to delay, mute your mouth, or the critics close your throat, because if God showed it to you, he meant for you to speak it, to say it loud, to say it again, even when it looks dead, even when it sounds crazy, even when no one claps, because dry bones don't move until someone dares to prophesy. 2, speak life over your vision, because life and death are in the power of the tongue. And the enemy wants your mouth closed because he knows a believer who speaks in alignment with God is a threat to everything that stands in the way. And when you open your mouth and speak with faith, things start to break, shift, shake, move, open, align. And what like just imagination becomes manifestation. 3, speak life over your vision, because vision is fragile when first received, like seed in fresh soil, and doubt is a weed that grows fast in silence. But when you speak life, not just think it, not just hope it, but declare it, defend it, and remind yourself and every lying spirit that this vision was born of heaven. Then what started as a whisper becomes a war cry that drives out fear. 4, speak life over your vision, because if you don't, someone else will speak death over it, someone will minimize it, mock it, twist it, talk circles around it, until you question if you heard God right. But you must be the prophet of your own promise, the guardian of your own garden. And every day you must open your mouth and water that vision with words that sound like. 5, speak life over your vision, not just when it's growing, but especially when it looks like nothing is happening. When doors stay shut, when people walk away, when your emotions go numb, when your prayers feel empty, because it is in those moments that your words become warfare. And praise becomes a weapon, and your declaration becomes a defiance against discouragement. 6, speak life over your vision, because God creates with words, not noise, and you were made in his image to do the same. So don't underestimate the power of a whispered promise or a shouted decree, because when your language matches his word, creation obeys that. And what was once only in your spirit begins to appear in your surroundings. 7, speak life over your vision, because complaining cancels, but prophesying prepares, and you can't keep speaking death over what you expect God to raise. So speak life even when you feel low. Speak life even when others laugh. Speak life until your bones believe it, until your mirror reflects it. Until your surroundings surrender to the sound of resurrection in your. 8, speak life over your vision, because your future is voice activated, and though God gives the vision, he calls you to activate it with agreement. And agreement isn't passive. It's vocal, it's bold, it's consistent, it's speaking like it's already done, praising like it's already here, thanking him like it's already visible, because faith doesn't wait for evidence to speak. It creates evidence by speaking. 9, speak life over your vision, because giants fall when the shout comes, walls crumble when the trumpets blow. Lazarus walks when Jesus says his name. And if the Spirit of God lives in you, then your voice isn't just noise, it's authority. And you don't need to feel powerful to speak with power. You just need to be in alignment with the one who backs his word with fire. 10, speak life over your vision, because even if nobody else sees it yet, you were chosen to carry it, to protect it, to pronounce it, and to birth it. And if you'll keep speaking in the dark, he will bring it to life. If you'll keep declaring through the drought, he will send the rain. If you'll keep agreeing with his promise, he will watch over his word to perform it, because the vision still lives, and it's waiting on your voice. 1, let go of fear, because it's a thief, robbing you of joy, robbing you of peace, robbing you of the full potential God has placed inside of you. And though it may sound logical, though it may seem like protection, fear is not your friend. It is the enemy's tool to paralyze you from moving forward. to distract you from the purpose that is calling your name, and it has no place in a life that's already been redeemed, because the moment fear steps out, and the promise of God is that perfect love casts out all fear. 2, let go of fear, because fear keeps you looking backward when God is always calling you forward. Fear tells you to stay in the past, to hold on to what was, but God says that, behold, I am doing a new thing. And you cannot walk into what God has for you while you are still chained to what has already passed, and fear wants to keep you stuck. But faith wants to propel you into the future, into your destiny, into everything that God has been preparing you for. Let go of fear, because it is rooted in the belief that you are alone, that you are abandoned, that you are unqualified or unworthy. But fear is a lie, and the truth is that God is with you. He has never left you. He will never forsake you. And when you step out in obedience, He walks with you. He strengthens you. He upholds you, and fear has no power where His presence abides. Let go of fear, because fear tells you that you can't, that you're not good enough, that the dream is too big, that the task is impossible. But God is the one who calls the impossible into being. He is the one who takes the small and makes it mighty, who takes the weak and makes it strong, who takes the timid and makes it courageous. And if He's called you to it, He will empower you to do it. So stop listening to fear and start listening to the one who says, hey, you are more than a conqueror. 5, let go of fear, because fear always overestimates the worst and underestimates the power of God. Fear wants you to think the storm will drown you, the failure will define you, the rejection will ruin you, but the reality is that God has already seen the storm. He's already seen the outcome. He's already gone before you, and He has equipped you for what you are facing. Fear does not know the future, but God does, and He holds that future in His hands. Let go of fear, because it causes you to shrink back when God is calling you to step forward, to stay silent when He's calling you to speak, to hide when He's calling you to shine. And the more you give in to fear, the smaller your life becomes. The less you trust, the less you risk, and the less you grow. But when you let go of fear, you let go of limitation, and suddenly your freedom move in the power, the freedom and the boldness of the Spirit. Let go of fear, because fear keeps you in a state of indecision, always questioning, always doubting, always second guessing. But God has not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And a sound mind is one that trusts in the faithfulness of God, that steps out in confidence, not because everything is clear, but because you know the one who holds your future. When you trust Him, you can move with certainty, even in the midst of uncertainty. Let go of fear, because fear causes you to build walls that isolate you from others, from opportunity, from God's purpose for your life. But God has called you to build bridges, to step into relationships that will encourage you, to step into opportunities that will challenge you, to step into the purpose that will expand you. And fear wants to isolate, to keep you in your comfort zone. But love and faith invite you to step outside of that zone, to embrace the world with courage, because you're not called to. 9, let go of fear, because it makes you focus on the what ifs, on the potential dangers, the potential failure, the potential rejection. But God has called you to focus on the what is. He is with you. He is for you, is faithful. He is able. He is enough. And when you know who He is, the what ifs lose their power, because your trust is no longer in your own ability, but in His, and there is nothing too hard for Him. 10, let go of fear, because it is not the truth. It is not your reality. And it has no place in the life of a believer, because in Christ you have been given power, love, and a sound mind. And when you walk in His truth, fear fades into the background. It shrinks, it evaporates, it has no voice, no authority, no power, because the perfect love of God drives it out. And you were never meant to live in fear. You were meant to live in faith and freedom, in boldness, and in the fullness of the life He has for you. And so today, let go of fear and walk forward with confidence, because He who calls you is faithful. 1, serve others with your dream, because your vision was never meant to be just about you. It's not a selfish pursuit, but a divine calling to make the world better, to leave a legacy that transcends your own life. And when you start serving others with your dream, you begin to see that every struggle, indeed, every sacrifice, every failure has purpose, because the power of your dream isn't fully realized until it lifts someone else, changes someone else's trajectory, and opens doors that they thought were closed. 2, serve others with your dream, because the more you pour out, the more God pours in. And when you use your gifts, your talents, your resources, your vision to serve, you activate the kingdom of God on earth, and He blesses what's given away, multiplies it, and returns it, not just for your benefit, a body of Christ for the world. for the people whose lives will be changed because you chose to say, my dream is not just for me, but for all who need. 3, serve others with your dream, because when you serve, you follow in the footsteps of the greatest servant who ever lived, who didn't hold on to his power, but laid it down to lift humanity. And your dream was never meant to be a platform for pride, but a pulpit for humility, to show others the love of God in action, to create opportunities for those who have been overlooked, underappreciated, and under-resourced. And when you serve with your dream, you reflect the heart of the one who came to serve and not to be served. 4, serve others with your dream, because true greatness is found in giving, not taking and lifting others, not stepping on them and seeing how your success can become someone else's breakthrough. And when your dream is used to help others, you begin to see that it was never about the accolades, the fame, the fortune. It was always about the people you touch, the souls you inspire, and the communities you build through your passion and purpose, because a dream that serves others has eternal significance. 5, serve others with your dream, because when you give your dream away, you discover that your joy multiplies, your fulfillment expands, and your purpose becomes clearer, because the vision God placed inside of you was never meant to be kept locked up in your heart, but shared, expanded, and made tangible through service. And when you use what He's given you to serve, you will find that the more you bless others, the more He blesses you. 6, serve others with your dream, because it's in serving that you discover the true power of community, the strength of collaboration, and the beauty of connection, because your dream was never meant to be a solo journey, but a shared experience, where you link arms with others who are walking their own paths. And when you serve, you realize that your dream wasn't just for you, but for a collective purpose, a movement, a mission, a cause that's bigger than one person, bigger than one dream, bigger than one life. 7, serve others with your dream, because in serving you break the chains of selfish ambition and step into a greater purpose where your success is not measured by what you gain, but by how much you give. And the more you serve, the more you realize that your dreams are not only a vehicle for your own success, but a key to unlocking potential in others. And when you open the doors for others, you make room for God to open doors for you that you could never have imagined. 8, serve others with your dream, because it shifts your perspective from what can I get to what can I give. And when you ask that question, your dreams start to take on new meaning, new dimension, and new depth, because suddenly your dream is no longer a selfish pursuit, but a divine mandate to bless, to heal, to restore, to empower, and to help others find their own purpose, their own passion, their own path. And when you serve with your dream, you become a living testimony that dreams are meant to be shared, not owned. 9, serve others with your dream, because the true test of your success is how much it impacts the lives of those around you, how much it blesses your community, how much it uplifts your family, and how much it transforms the world. And if your dream only serves you, then you've missed the mark. But when your dream serves others, when it reaches beyond your own needs, beyond your own desires, beyond your own limitations, it becomes a beacon of hope, a light in the darkness, and a reminder that God's dreams are always bigger than we can imagine. Serve others with your dream, because when you do, you fulfill the highest calling, to love your neighbor as yourself, to use what God has entrusted you with to bring healing, hope, and opportunity to the broken, the lost, and the hurting. And when you serve others with your dream, you create a ripple effect that will extend far beyond what you can see, a legacy that will outlast your lifetime. And you will find that the dreams you have were never yours to keep, but were meant to bless the world. 1, finish strong, because the beginning of the race is only part of the journey, and many start well. But it's not how you start that matters, it's how you finish. And though the path may be long and the obstacles may seem overwhelming, there is a strength that rises within you when you make the choice to keep going, to keep pressing forward, to keep trusting, because in the end, it's the finish line that matters. And you were never called to be a quitter, but a conqueror, one who finishes with honor, with strength, with purpose. 2, finish strong, because the road may be rugged, the journey may be tough, but the prize is always worth it. And though there will be days when your body feels weak, when your mind feels exhausted, when the enemy whispers that it's easier to give up, you have within you a power that rises from the very presence of God. And He who began a good work in you will see it through to completion. And no challenge, no setback, no difficulty can stop the purpose that God has placed in your heart. 3, finish strong, because every step, every struggle, every moment of pain is part of the process. And while you may feel like giving up, The truth is that your character is being shaped, your faith is being strengthened, your perseverance is being developed, and when you finish strong, you're not just crossing a physical finish line, you're crossing into the fulfillment of a divine destiny that was written before time, a calling that was crafted with you in mind, and every step you take brings you closer to that divine fulfillment. I'll finish strong because there will always be voices that tell you to stop, that tell you the journey is too hard, too long, too much. But the louder truth is that your God is bigger than any voice that says quit. And the vision he's placed inside of you is greater than any challenge that tries to stop you. And the finish line is not reserved for the perfect, it's reserved for the faithful. For those who keep running, who keep believing, who keep pressing, no matter the storm, no matter the pain. Because finishing strong is about staying the course, staying committed, and knowing that victory is in your hands. 5, finish strong because every day that you continue, every time you get back up after a fall, every time you choose faith over fear, you are becoming more of the person you were destined to be. And God is with you every step of the way, giving you grace, giving you strength, giving you the courage to keep moving, even when the road seems impossible, because the race is not given to the swift, but to those who endure. And you were made to endure. You were made to finish strong. 6, finish strong because you're not alone in this race. God is beside you, cheering you on. And he has placed people in your life to encourage you, to strengthen you, to remind you that the fight is worth it. Remember that you are part of something bigger, a divine plan that stretches across generations. And your victory is not just for you. It's for those who will come after you, those who will be inspired by your faith, by your determination, by your ability to finish strong. 7, finish strong because it's in the final moments that the greatest breakthroughs happen. And the enemy wants you to believe that quitting is easier, that giving up will bring relief. But the truth is that the breakthrough is closer than you think. The victory is just ahead. And if you can hold on just a little longer, if you can press through the weariness, through the doubt, through the pain, you will see the harvest of your faith, the fruit of your perseverance. And you will look back and see that everything was worth it. That the finish line was the beginning of something greater than you ever imagined. 8, finish strong because there is power in the decision to keep going. And when you decide to finish with everything you have, you are making a declaration that your purpose is bigger than your circumstance. Your faith is stronger than your fear. And you are committed to seeing God's promises come to fruition. And that commitment becomes the fuel that propels you forward, that keeps your eyes focused on the prize, that strengthens your heart when the journey gets tough. 9, finish strong because the victory doesn't just belong to those who start, but to those who stay, to those who endure, to those who keep the faith even when it's hard, who keep fighting even when it's difficult, who keep trusting even when they don't understand. And in the end, when you cross the finish line, when you look back at everything you've overcome, you'll realize that the strength wasn't yours alone, but God's. And he will be there arms wide open to welcome you into your victory, into your purpose, and into the fulfillment of the dreams he's placed inside of you. 10, finish strong because your story is not over yet. Your victory is not in the past, and your purpose is not completed until you've crossed the finish line, until you've given everything you have to the work that God has called you to do. And as you press on, as you endure, as you keep moving forward, you are not just running a race, you are fulfilling a divine calling. And the moment you cross that line, you will know that you gave it everything, that you finished strong, and that the race was worth every moment.